Good day, everyone. I'm going to discuss the first ever topic for Accounting 120A, that is managerial or management accounting. The first topic is Accounting Information System or AIS. You can just see here on this particular picture that a system is composed basically of a lot of components. Could be physical and logical. If you say physical, these are the tangible aspects, meaning these are the aspects that are having physical substance. Whereas if we say logical, we mean intangible. So these are the aspects that that don't have physical substance. All right, so for the tangible ones, we have persons, we have the information system infrastructure, but in terms of logical or intangible, we have the data, the established procedures, the software, and the internal control. So those are just some of the components of AIS depending on the source. Now, allow me to discuss this in detail now. So this is the source, our source for information system and accountants perspective from James Hall. So take note, this is just for the sake of educational purposes. All right. So here are our objectives, or basically these are the topics rather that we are going to tackle than the objectives. But if we translate this to objectives, so basically we will be able to explain the primary information flows within the business environment. So basically how information flows, whether internal or external of the business. Then we need to differentiate AIS and MIS. So what's the difference of the two systems? What are the relationships of the two? Next is describe the general model for information systems. Then distinguish financial transactions from non-financial transactions. Another one, let's describe the functional areas of a business. Then describe or distinguish perhaps the two main stages in the evolution of information systems. And we need to identify and explain the three roles of accountants in an information system. So this is basically the part one of these lengthy discussions of accounting information systems. Now we can see here on this particular illustration about the information flows in the organization. So we can see the pyramid that is from top to bottom. So top management, then the middle management, the operations. These are the three levels of management. Then at the bottom of those three, basically are the day-to-day operations of the business or information. Now, for these particular levels, we can just notice that there are arrows here. So from top to bottom and from bottom up, or top down, bottom up. So that's also the concept that we learned from management subjects, is that information can be from top down and bottom up and vice versa. And as we go along the way, there can be many flows. So just to simplify the situation, it is just like the information is going or is being shown linear or a straight line. However, we all know that information can be on many directions in the business. Again, this is just to simplify the illustration. So budget information and instructions, top down, bottom up, performance information. So basically, the top will, of course, execute the budget. However, before budgets is made, just like the discussions in how budgets are made, they should start at the bottom, going to up, right? And then from the up or the top management, the upper level management, that or they would approve the budget. So this is where the budget information and instructions would go down and the process would repeat. Okay, So that's how it goes. On the other hand, if it is performance, so who are in charge with the operations, we have the the operations personnel. So they are basically the rank and file employees, as we call them in our human resource management subjects. Their performances are to be measured, are to be evaluated so that we will get the feedback if ever they are performing well or not. So out of those, then such will be communicated to operations, to middle, and to top management. You can also notice that operations management will be the supervisor of the operations personnel. All right. Now, at external part, you can notice three ovals or oblongs. So you have the customers, stakeholders, and suppliers. So these are basically the users of the information of the business externally. You have here a while ago internally. Externally, customers, remember our customers will be buying goods and services from us. So they also need information from us. If this is financial accounting, we will be producing financial statements. So basically, that's one source of information or reports that can be furnished to the users, like customers and suppliers. So suppliers would be providing the supplies, the raw materials, the goods and services also for us, the business, to be able to produce our products. And finally, we also have other stakeholders. We can think of the banks and financial institutions or lenders, our other creditors, also the government, the public as a whole, and many more. So there can be many users of the information, including employees, of course. So basically, that's how information like flows in the organization. It can be in any direction. But to simplify again, it's linear. Next, you have information flows, as noticed, can be horizontal, can also be vertical. So horizontal, if within the same level or of the same level, just like with the customer and suppliers, they are here on the same level because they communicate through here, not through the managers. And then in terms of vertical, so downward could be instructions, quotas, and budgets coming from the top. But that's what I've said. The budgets could be coming also from the bottom, but the final instructions would be from the up part or portion. Then upward flows would be from the bottom going to up. So performances, aggregated means combined transactions and the operations data that can be used by the upper management for the next planning aspect. As we all know in management subjects, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. So the feedbacks coming from the performances out of the operations would be needed to improve our operations and for the next planning stage. After that, information requirements. We have to know that each person, each user in the organization needs specific requirements. So every person is unique, every user is unique. And that is the reason that there is a need for an accounting information system because we want to be able to provide these unique user needs or requirements. Also, we have to know that as we go higher the organization, we can notice that the information are more aggregated or combined, meaning they are more summarized and less detailed. Normally, the people at the top do not have the time to read lengthy reports. They need the summarized version. Anyway, for the detailed ones, the supervisors who are direct to their subordinates will be looking into those items. And we can also say with this statement here, this statement second, as we go lower, then the more the information becomes detailed. So in other words, what's the lesson? If you would like to know more details, go at the bottom. Okay, next. Information is a scarce resource. It's a business resource that needs to be appropriately managed and is vital to the survival of contemporary businesses It can either make or break of a business. Information is also something that is confidential or private in nature. So example of that will be our secret recipes or formulas for our products. If such would be divulged to anyone or everybody, that could make or break us. So normally more on the breaking part, right? So we have to be careful about that. Next, since we're talking about accounting information systems, so we have to know what is really a system. So if you will be asked, it's a group, a combination of interrelated multiple components. As being illustrated in the picture a while ago, there are a lot of components of a system. So they should be many and they should be connected with each other. So one user will be dependent upon the information coming from the others or the subsystems that serve a common purpose. So these particular components have the same objective or goal as a whole, the organization or business, according or in accordance to the vision, mission, goals, objectives, the core values, the strategies and policies. So those things about the business or organization. Now, is it a system or subsystem? We might be asking like, is my organization a system or subsystem? The answer is that it depends upon the focus or point of view. So it's possible that a system is a subsystem in another situation, and a subsystem here that we analyze is a system in another organization. Example, a school. If a school has many branches, so the overall school is the system, while the many branches would be subsystem. Let's say we look at branch A. The branch A is a subsystem of the overall company A. But if we think of the different departments within branch A, let's say Department A becomes the subsystem of branch A. But branch A is a system then composed of subsystems, department A, B, C, D, E, and F, and etc. Right? So it's a matter of focus, of attention, or point of view or point of reference. Next, decomposition versus interdependency. If you say decomposition, basically we are dividing the bigger or larger part into smaller parts. What's the point? So that we will be able to segregate the duties and so that we can also achieve mastery of tasks. Some tasks are incompatible. They should not be merged on one person or same set of persons only in the same department. They should be delegated, assigned to a lot of persons. That's why we have to decompose. And this would also make us easier to, or this makes easier the analysis that we make. Next, system interdependency. The components, as what I've said, are very connected with each other. They're not self-contained, so they do not rely just by itself, like independent. Of course, we want that they are independent in that they do not like connive with others to make fraudulent actions or transactions. Or what I meant is that they are independent on the sense that they can exist as a department, but in terms of function, so that they can perform well, they will need information coming from the other department. So they're also reliant. And then, in other words, or overall, the parts must be functioning well, all of them, otherwise the system overall will fail. That's it. Then we can also define what is an information system. It is the set, a while ago that was what is a system, group of interrelated components. Now, what is really an information system? So aside from group of interrelated components, it's the set of formal procedures out of those interrelated components by which data are collected, processed into information, and information distributed to users. So basically, the IPO flow, input, process, output. Input would be the data, process, example, accounting process, if this is basically financial accounting, and then the output would be the financial statements. And they will be given to the users. All right. Next, transactions. Okay, so a transaction is a business event. Yeah, that is true. That is correct. Then business transactions should be separate from personal transactions of the owner or owners. The transactions can be two, financial or non-financial. Financial if that would affect the accounting elements from assets down to expenses or the assets and equities. The equities meant here are the liabilities and the owner's equity, or the partners, shareholders, or members' equity, depending on the form of business organization. On the other hand, if you say liabilities, that also means the creditor's equity, the claim of the creditors out of the assets of the business. So that's why these two are placed here. Then, for example, purchase of an airline ticket. So in this case, there is the word purchase, meaning we actually bought it. So there's the receipt or the, let's say, the receiving of the airline ticket. So this is the transportation expense or traveling expense, and credit cash, because normally tickets are to be purchased cash. And then unless we use credit cards, so that's going to be a liability. Anyhow, non-financial transactions. In this case, all other events processed by the organization's information system. So not all of the events in the business are financial, that they are going to affect the accounting elements. Some would just be there that could later on trigger to become financial transactions. So they can become financial transactions later. Example, airline reservation. For now, that's not a commitment. But once later on that reservation is being done or being placed and there is purchase of an airline ticket, so in that case, the non-financial becomes financial. So that's the point. The non-financial could be disclosed later on in the notes to financial statements or in any paper, so memorandum paper or note for that matter. All right, so these are the two transactions that we will deal. If this is hardcore accounting, financial transactions would be called accountable events, while the non-financial transactions would be called non-accountable events. Hopefully that is clear. So we are trying to connect it with accounting one subject. Next, the transactions here, as what I've said, could be financial, non-financial. This will be processed in the information system. Then that's the system that would process the data to become information. And the information will be communicated to various users for their decision making. Then, what is accounting information systems? So basically, we now learned what a system is. We now learned what an information system is. What about AIS? So basically, we just have to attach the word accounting. So in the data, it will be economic data that would be processed into an information system. Normally, that's going to be manual and or computerized or technological. But nowadays, we think of technological. But then manual also has accounting information system. It's just that manual. So if we hear the word accounting information system, it's not like 100% technological because some are still using manual. So it can be manual AIS, or we call that also traditional AIS versus the computerized or technological AIS. Well, some are combining. So perhaps majority or higher percentage, at least 51% would be using the technological or computerized AIS. Anyway, just attach the word accounting to the definition. So basically we are dealing here with the economic data processed through the accounting information systems, could be manual and or technological or computerized. Then the process is accounting, of course. Accounting is a process and we get the outputs, which are the financial statements or the reports and to be communicated to users. So basically these are the three definitions. So we gather the data, we collect, process them and communicate. Then It also captures and records the financial effects of the firm's transactions. That's actually on the part of identifying and collecting. And distribution aspect now will be on the communication. Okay, that's it. Next, let's differentiate the two, AIS versus MIS. Basically, the overall information systems of the organization would be composed of a lot of, let's say, systems or information systems for that matter. So if you have the overall corporate information system, so in that case, you have the AIS and the MIS. So every department then, like HR, would have human resource information system under MIS. So basically, the differences would be that AIS would be on financial transactions, but would also include non-financial that would have impact later on with the financial transactions. Example of that, if there are new vendors approved for our suppliers. So that's going to affect later on accounts payable. That's for AIS. On the other hand, for MIS, we think of the non-financial transactions other than the second one here for AIS, in which they are not processed there in the AIS. They are processed differently. Like if you say tracking customer complaints, we are now talking about customer service, which could be another department in the organization. So that's going to be another department. How about HR, human resources or personnel information systems? That's going to be another department under MIS. Okay, so we can see it here that the IS overall company as a whole is composed of AIS and MIS. You can notice here, these are financially related systems. GL means general ledger, of course, you know that. FR means financial reporting. TPS means transaction processing system. So transactions are now analyzed to be journalized. And then later on, they're going to be forwarded to the general ledger. And we follow the accounting processes, trial balance, adjusting, worksheet, financial statements, so financial reports. Management reporting systems are those management items that are for internal. Remember, financial reporting systems are for external users, like the IFRS statements or financial statements users, while the MRSs would be for internal users or the management. So these are the financial items related as well as the non-financial items that would still be processed under AIS. But for the MIS, these are other than the traditional AIS's function. So these are basically the functional departments or areas other than accounting. You have the finance, marketing, production, human resources, services, distribution, or logistics, and many more. So there can be many functional departments discussed by you in your other management subjects. Okay, next. What are the subsystems in AIS? So let's check. I've already explained to you. Transactions would be on the transactions like purchase of goods, sales of goods. Then these are to be forwarded to the ledger to be processed so that they will form part of our reports called financial statements. While the MRSs will be for internal use as opposed to number two, which are for external uses. And these are special purpose reports. While the previous one, FRS, would be for externally prepared financial reports or financial statements, which are general purpose reports that would address the common needs of wide range of users. Next, the general AIS model. We can notice that the business organization will have an information system that would have data to be processed and to form reports, and they will satisfy the needs of the internal end users. Also, this information system can also satisfy the needs of the external environment. So example, you can see here the internal sources of data being, of course, collected, and these are collected coming from external users, or sources. So external sources of data could be also the users. Data collection to be collected, processed, and we generate the information. The data process will be kept in the database management because it's very dangerous to just leave the information as is, knowing they're confidential, private, vital to the survival of the business. So they should be kept properly, stored properly in certain storage devices like magnetic disks, could be hard drives, hard disk, etc. Then information generated to form reports will be communicated to external end users. The information generated can also, of course, satisfy the internal end users. We get the feedback, whether that's internally and externally, and they're very important because they're also part of the sources of data. So they are going to be part also in the next planning stage or aspect. So this is the general AIS model. What's the point? The model shows that information can come from external and internal, and they are to be communicated also to external and internal. And feedbacks are very important. Okay, so I've already explained the data sources, which can be internal and external. So external would involve entities coming from outside the organization or business, while internal would be coming from those within the business. Example, sale of goods and services. So this would involve the buyer and the seller. Normally, if, for example, this is sales, so we are the seller, the buyer is outside of the business. Therefore, this is external. We acquire inventory, pay cash, and of course, collect cash, including even payroll. So payment of salaries to employees are also considered external transactions because that is like outside of the business. Employees are considered external entities or parties. Next, internal financial transactions involve the exchange within the organization only. Classic example would be our depreciation. So the PPE is depreciated except to land, of course, that's internal. If we think of, for example, goods are being made, meaning the production process, conversion of raw materials into finished products, then that is also an example of internal financial transaction because that happened within the business. Next, transforming the data into information. That's what we have already explained. Data as a review means raw facts, meaning unprocessed information or facts, while information is processed data. Now, how is that going to happen specifically? So these are now the functions under the general AIS model, the illustration that we have known. Collection of data, processing, management, and information generation. And we will discuss them step by step. And data collection, so we capture that data, we record the data onto forms because later on that would help us to analyze it properly. Then we validate and edit the data. Yeah, that's very important because we all have to make sure that the data that we get is really relevant and reliable in that sense. So we get the information from reliable sources. And then edit is important as to errors are being obtained or errors are found out. So editing is very important in knowing and in obtaining accuracy of the information or data. So if you can notice, we can make use of data and information interchangeably. However, we can be very strict now that we are in accounting information systems. So this is still data aspect because we are on gathering or collection phase. Next, we process. So once the data has been into forms, validated, edited as needed so that it will be or they will be accurate, now we classify them, we group them, we transcribe. It's going to be true most especially if the information could be in other languages or Could be in other forms, like it's an interview. So we have to transcribe that, to write that down or jot that down onto paper, and any form that is written or printed. Sorting, we have to group them into meaningful groups. Batch, yeah, could be also into batches. Merging, combining similar items. Computation, calculations, very important. To summarize, very broad and many details, and we compare if needed. Okay. And then going back for comparing, contrasting is also important because differences may be obtained in the analysis. After that, we manage also, we have to store, we make sure that we have backups in case that the main file is lost, or we have to make sure that if ever there are disruptions on the systems, then we can retrieve the data as much as possible and as quick as possible, so as not to result to a lot of losses for the organization because we did not act immediately or on time. Then deleting, because some information would be outdated, they are no longer needed by the business, so they have to be deleted. In terms of storing, we have the so-called grandfather father son approach, wherein there are like at least three levels. So example, this is year one. Year one is like the first set of information. When we have the year two, so we now have the father and son. Year three, we now have the grandfather as year one, father as year two, and the son as year three, and so on and so forth. So as we go along the way, depending on the policy of the company, some other sets of data that are already outdated, let's say after 5 sets or years, they can be disposed of if ever they are no longer useful. And then this is the final one, information generation. So you have here the compiling, arranging, formatting, and presenting. So the information that we obtain should be compiled, should be grouped, should be in certain information that would be readable to users. We also arrange them, format, and present again that would be readable, understandable to the users, meaningful to them as they read and they make their respective decisions. All right. So that's going to be the end of part one. The next one, characteristics of useful information, and the others will be discussed in the next part of accounting information systems. Hopefully you learned something today, and that's it for now. Bye.